Rupert, you are a fluffy dog. Thank you for the kisses. So remember, for passive training, every time he does what you want, just say him within that 3-second window. So if you like the kisses, every time he licks you, say the word kisses or smoochies. One of my dogs, if I say love, he comes and licks my nose. Love means lick me, right? Specifically here. So basically, the Guardian, I think, has all the tools that she needs to take care of this. We're going to kind of just run down. This is a little bit of a summary of the stuff we covered. First thing we talked about is getting him a little bit more exercise. Your average dog needs an hour's worth of exercise a day. Being a puppy and a higher energy breed, I think he probably is closer into the hour and a half, 2 hour range. But taking walks is not a very efficient way of exercising. It's good. It's important. I'm not saying don't walk him. And let him sniff, because that is stimulating and draining. But throwing the ball up and down the stairs. Doing some scent games, scent work. The snuffle, I would feed him out of the snuffle mat maybe for dinner. And so we put a couple treats in there is one thing, but if I got all my kibble in there, that can be very physically draining for him to get all that stuff out of there. And I think if we increase his exercise and his stimulation, that's going to have a profound impact. A lot of dogs chew on mouth things because out of boredom. And so a tired dog is a good dog is an old adage, but is fairly true. So I want you to think, when he is quote unquote naughty, ask yourself, how long has it been since he's had some exercise? If it's been longer than an hour, probably instead of being naughty, he probably just needs a little bit more exercise. So what we need to do is find the right amount of exercise for him. I recommend keeping an exercise journal. Write a fresh piece of paper for every day. Write the day at the top. Write down the time, the number of fetches, the time and running up down the stairs, the time in the scent games, or number of treats for scent games, the walk and how long it was. And then anytime he has a nipping or barking or jumping up or whatever, any other behavior that you don't like, write the time and what was going on so you can kind of collect that data. And then at the end of the day, give him a letter grade A through F. If it's anything other than A, the next day give him a couple more repetitions at fetch. Or if it's really low grade, maybe instead of fetch 3 times a day, we do it 5 times a day. So for your morning routine, what I would suggest is you get up, come and let him out first thing. Give him up to 5 minutes outside. When he's outside doing his thing, start your coffee or whatever it is. Bring him back inside, and then I would take him to the stairs, and I would throw the ball up and down the stairs and keep throwing it down. Now, again, the first time you want to do this with an empty stomach and throw it until when he's got full of energy. Keep on throwing it until he's like, you're crazy. I've another 48 times. I'm not going anymore. Now we do know what his maximum number is. Usually you're going to extra 50 to 75% of that maximum number. So 5 minutes on the stairs is equivalent to like a 20, 30-minute walk. And you can do that when it's an ice storm, 1,000,000 degrees outside, before guests come over. It's very quick and efficient. So what I would do is, again, get up, let him out to do his business, start your coffee, let him back in, spend 5 minutes on the stairs, or 7, or whatever it turns out to be. Then at that point, I would let him kind of recover. He needs about 10 minutes to recover. So go take your shower. When you get done with your shower, come out right away and give him his food. And so remember, when he eats, you need to eat something first. So put food in his bowl. Don't let him near it. Use those escalating consequences. Keep him away. Then get a chip or cracker, something you can eat in 5 bites. When you get done eating it, then call him over, tap the bowl. And since he's kind of free feeding and grazing now, he probably won't come the first day or 2. That's fine. If it goes longer than 3 days, let me know. But when he does come over and eat, so if he doesn't come over within about a minute and a half, pick up the bowl, dump it empty, and put the empty bowl back down. He won't eat again until dinner. Now, we're offering him the opportunity to eat, and that's why we encourage him a couple times. So it's ethical, because we're not just saying you can't have food, we're saying come and eat it when I tell you to eat it. At dinner time, he'll be more hungry. But let's say he does eat the food. Then you basically, once he eats, you go and finish dressing and get ready for work. Take him outside, give him a couple minutes, like 10 minutes to kind of, usually about 5 minutes after eating, they want to deplete their bowels. So give him about 5 or 10 minutes to kind of get everything out of his system. Then bring him back inside. Put him in the long-term confinement area. You go to work. When you come home from work, make sure that you let him out and do his business, and immediately go and spend another 5 minutes with the treat. And then until you go to bed, like every 2 to 4 hours, somewhere in that range, he should be getting a 5 minutes of exercise or a walk or some fetch or whatever it is. So after a while, that's passive training. We're going to talk about that in a second. You are a fur ball. Okay, so basically, if you come up with a routine where you're getting more exercise, I think that's really going to help with a lot of the problems that you're having. I would recommend checking out getting an eye fetch, and although some of the guardians are always confounded when they see how many treats they have, I will let that happen for now. I recommend that a dog should have a minimum of 20 toys. I like to see closer to like 30. I have about 50. And Rupert, come. cup your hand, the lower you go, the more it's for the dog. Literally, sometimes you have to go all the way to the floor. But don't go like this, let him see your hand is empty. Make sure you sell it. So you curl your fingertips up. So he's going to need, like when you get home from work, I'd like to see him get some more exercise about every 2 to 4 hours. If you're going to have guests come over, exercising him ahead of time. If you're going to go to band practice, essentially, then get him some more exercise before you go. Sit. And you might want to consider getting him like into dog daycare a couple days a week. I know there's a cost for that, but the guardian I think is a little bit. I think she's doing fine, but I think there is a little bit of concern that he's not getting as much stimulation as he needs. Every once in a while, just supplement it. Maybe once a week he goes to Dogtopia or wherever it is you want to take him for dog daycare. Just make sure the dog daycare, they should take him away from you and evaluate him. If they don't do that, I'd be worried about that. I'd also look for a place that has cameras so you can tune in and watch yourself. If they know they're being watched, they're going to do a little bit of a better job, and look at their reviews. But if you can set him up for success, like let's say the kids are going to come over and spend the night, well, that's a good day for him to be at daycare. Remember, he's only awake for about 6 or 7 hours out of any 24-hour period. He's at daycare for 6 or 7 hours. He comes home, he's going to be tired. So, all right, so exercise is a big part of it. We also talked about enforcing rules. Sit. So one of the rules is not being allowed on the furniture because the higher they sit, the more rank or social status they have. So these rules should be in place for at least 90 days or as long as the problem is still going on. So I would say for at least 3 months he's not allowed on the furniture, and at that point, if you decide you would like to invite him up, that's a one-time exception per invitation. So if I invite him up and he's hanging out and he gets down to go to drink water, when he comes back, he would need another invite. Or if he's up here and he starts barking or he touches me with his teeth, he loses that privilege. All right, so other rules, shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen. The guardian here is a great chef. She cooks a lot, and he should not be allowed in the kitchen when she's cooking. When she's eating, shouldn't be allowed within 7 feet of her. She needs to eat something before she feeds him, even if it's just 5 bites of a chip or cracker. Make him sit at the door. Tell him to go to the door and say, sit, one time. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, sit nearby, sit at the table. Read a little bit, wait for 1 minute, then go back to the door and command him to sit. Again, only one time. If he doesn't sit this time, I'll walk away for 2 minutes. Next time I walk away for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. Keep double length of time until eventually, when I go to the door, he just sits down automatically. Be careful if he drags his shoulder along the side of the couch, or if you have your feet up and he's what looks like scratching his back behind you. That can be a scent marking. That's the same thing pretty much as peeing on things. It's just a little bit more desirable, but it shows that he thinks he has ownership. A lack of rules confuses dogs into thinking that we're peers, and if we're peers, we're at the same level, then listening to us is optional. The more we enforce rules, the more the dog sees us acting like a leader, at least from their perspective, and the more respect they're going to have for us. We can't just say, I'm in charge now. Show me you're in charge through your actions. So not allowing him to be within 7 feet of you when you're eating, make him sit at the door, and all the rest of that stuff is a great way for you to enforce rules and for him to practice crash, some self-control, and obedience, for lack of a better word. We didn't cover, I showed the guardian how to do it a little bit here. If you want, you can use those escalating consequences to practice answering the door. So as soon as you cross the threshold, turn, so you're facing him. Remember, your authority goes whatever direction your hips and torso are pointing at, and then walk backwards to the door. So arrange to have friends and neighbors come to the door, but before they come over, have them text or call you ahead of time. If it's something he's going to get really excited about, maybe take him out and play a little fetch first, have him at least 10 minutes to recover before they ring on the doorbell. And so when they text you, okay, you ready? Yep. And then basically you can either use the technique that I showed you when I first got here by stepping on a leash, or what you can do is walk towards the door. Now, if he's already ahead of you, walk all the way to him, turn so your back is to the door, and walk towards him. I call this reverse herding. So you're walking towards him and trying to kind of push him back a little bit with your energy or whatever you want to call it. And so if he tries to go this way, step to the side, don't let him pass you, and you're like a soccer player, and you get to keep on walking towards him until he gets across the line. Now it goes from carpet to wood. So once he's there, wait for him to stop moving. Once he stops, take 2 steps backwards and pause. That's going to cause him probably to come forward. At that point, you take a step forward to block or disagree. You only enforce to where the line is. So if you go past the line, he gets confused. So you'll have to do back and forth. It'll feel like a waltz, but after a while, you'll take a step back and you'll stay put. Then you take another step back and you stay put. But when you step back, left foot, right foot, pause. Don't take multiple steps. And then eventually you'll get all the way to the door. A lot of talking, Rupert. When you get to the door, if you turn to face the door, he's going to run to the door. So When I actually do this, I kind of reach back to the side and I click the deadbolt. Just the deadbolt sound. That is a sound that's associated with him, the door opening, so he's going to rush the door. So you click it, and as soon as he does that, you rush towards him. So what we're doing is we're breaking the activity down into small individual steps, helping him practice the first step over and over and over again until he's got that right. And this first step is just crossing the line and staying outside the wood while I walk to the door. Next step is I click the deadbolt several times. I keep doing it until I click the deadbolt and he stays there. And the next one is jiggle the handle. Pull my hand away. Jiggle the handle, pull my hand away. Reset completely each time until eventually you can jiggle the handle, and at any time he comes forward, you stop what you're doing and rush towards him. Now, if he makes it across, he takes one step across the onto the hardwood and you're way at the door, and you start marching him, he takes one step back, then you stop. You don't have to go to the edge unless he is still in the occupied territory. And eventually you open the door an inch and then close it, and 2 inches and close it, and so on and so forth. And when you get that door open, then you jiggle the handle of your outside door, open it an inch or two, and you keep on stopping at a point that he comes through. And this is helpful if you have friends and neighbors that live nearby come by, because they can just practice this. You're going to answer the door, and they don't actually come in. Sometimes people do, sometimes they don't. But when they do come, do keep on doing what you're doing, crash, and don't let them pet or give him attention when he's barking or excited. Let me see. Okay, so those are rules. We talked about petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose is if he comes up and nudges me or barks at me or paws at me for attention, he's telling me what to do. So instead of validating that he's in charge, I'm going to tell him a counter order, tell him to sit or to lie down. Don't practice shake. So as soon as he sits, pet him under his chin and say the word sit and only the word sit. Dogs hear the first word we say. So don't repeat a lot of gibberish to him, just say sit. Then pet him as much or as little as you want. If he doesn't sit, which is probably going to be the first couple days, show him you got other things to do. Lean back, turn the TV on. I would make sure you have those X mats so that X mats are keeping you off the furniture. You don't have to police it, otherwise he'll just get up to get a response from you. But then pull out something else and show him, look, if you don't do what I want, then that's fine. You do whatever you want. I'm not going to punish you, but I got other things going on, and you just missed out an opportunity to get with all of this. I know that doesn't sound as appealing. But the idea is eventually he starts learning that either it's her way or the highway. And I'm not punished, but I don't get that quality, that attention. And after a while, he'll start sitting in front of you to prepay for that attention. Remember, and even if you want to pet him, make sure that you make him or tell him to sit. If he does, again, if he doesn't get any attention. If he does, then he gets at least one pet to as many pets as you want. Passive training is what I was doing earlier, is just waiting for the dog to organically offer you the behavior you want. So every time the dog comes to you, you should pet it within 3 seconds and say come. Every time the dog lays down, you should pet it and say crash. Again, within 3 seconds. Every time it sits, pet it and say sit. And I preferably pet under the chin. Name all your individual toys. All balls can be balls, all bones can be bones, but maybe you call this guy, Blue Devil, or I don't know what it is. Come up with a funny name for everything. Use passive training for feeding him. Every time he takes his first bite of food, say lasagna or whatever the word is that you want to use. When you go outside, say fresco. When he comes inside, call it casa. So the more you qualify and put things in a context, the easier it is for him to understand. If he's on the furniture, I would throw a treat down. When he jumps down to get it, licks it off, I would say the word off. Remember, treat in the mouth first, command word immediately after, and just the command. Let me see. The video above talks about using petting with a purpose and passive training for the kids to motivate them to want to listen. And kids can be great at helpers, or they can be great to undo a lot of the work that we've done. So if we can get the kids on board, asking the dog to sit, he'll have more respect for the children. He'll listen to the children more. Now, if he continues after a month and he's still nipping and running after when the 5-year-old is running around, let me know. We can set up a 1-hour session and work on just specifically some counter conditioning and teach him to sit quietly and nicely while the kids move around. But until he sees and respects the guardian as an authority figure, I can show you all those things, but he's not going to listen to you if he doesn't respect you as an authority figure. All right, so I also went over how to use the clicker. So remember to prime the clicker. So in priming the clicker, you just have 10 treats, throw them down on the ground. The second he licks up, we click. You only have to do that maybe 3 to 4 more times, then he should be good to go. So I usually do about 10 treats in a row and then do it in this room, that room, a couple of different places. Then when you're using the clicker, as soon as you tell him to sit, and as soon as he sits, you click, and then you give him the treat. Can you, you used to be very crafty with that. I was going to see if you could do it with your foot. All right. So basically, come here, buddy. We'll show you a little bit. So I want you to work with him on some basic training. So to get him to sit, I use my hand in an arc over the head. Sit. So remember, click the second his butt hits the ground, and then get him a treat afterwards and say the command word. And then down, which we're going to call crash. Always keep the treat within his crash, within an inch of his nose. If you go too far and he stops tracking, go back to his nose. So I would have you just practice the sit and the crash. You can do a couple other ones as well. The other thing I would do is every time he comes to you, make sure you pet him and say come, or I think you say come, every time he comes to you. So do it when you didn't ask him to. Because a lot of times the only time we ask our dog to come to us is the end of fun. I'm having a great time yelling at the squirrel outside. You ask me to come, and when I do come and listen to you, you close the door, and I can't yell at the squirrel anymore. So now, like about 50, 100 times a day, I come to you, and you say, pet me and say, come. Well, I'm more inclined to want to do that. All right, so that's that is some basic training. I also went over a leave it exercise. So for leave it exercise, I'm going to go through the progressions here. So when I do this, I usually have a treat in either hand. I'm holding my hands on either side of him. Because, of course, I want you to go to this hand, though. So I'll put it closer. There we go. So if he goes this hand, I put my hands down here. If he goes this hand, I pull it away, kind of in this direction. And when he's looking, I drop that one and collapse down on top of it. As soon as he disengages, I give him the treat and say, leave it. Then I grab another treat. He never gets the treat on the ground. And that's where you'll eventually get is you'll be able to hover. Leave it, and you pick it up. And then eventually, we need better camera presence for you, buddy. Come here over here, sit. So eventually, leave it. I want him to look up at you and get you that eye contact. Then eventually you want to do this. All these exercises do in a lot of different parts of your house. But eventually, what you want to do is put something that he likes, like a kid toy or something he's not allowed to have, on the floor, and then say leave it, and he looks up at you. Then the treat comes here. So we're saying this is a good contract. If you leave what's on the ground, I'm gonna have something better for you right here. This is a guarantee. You don't know if you're gonna get that or not, or what it is. So the leave it exercise, sit. Is a great one. So if he starts going towards someone or an area or picking up an object, you'll use a ton of it. And so something else you might want to do is a little bit of a hand targeting exercise. I'll show you how to do this really on the fly right here. So when you do this, you want to karate chop with your hand, and once you karate chop, your hand is frozen. Everybody, sit. Doesn't have to sit, but when I karate chop, I'm going to karate chop on the right or left side of his hand. Once I want him to touch his nose to my hand, so I karate chop. Touch. Then I chop on this side. Touch. So I usually touch your target. Once you chop your hand, it's frozen. Now, if he doesn't come to it, if the dog's head is here and I chop here, if he doesn't come to it within about 3 or 4 seconds, I pull back and I chop halfway distance. The idea is to teach him eventually to come and put his hand to where your hand is, not where the treat is. That's why we chop with an empty hand and then put the treat there. Now, I think part of his issue is he's very furry right now. He doesn't have the best visual acuity because of his fur. But this is a great one. Eventually you can go like this. It's a little too early. So the progression for this, sit, is turn, touch, lean, touch, step, and again chop closer. All right, you want to do it this way. Better camera presence, I got you. Well, I should have paid for that because he gave me that. But the progression is at first you just want to turn, then lean, and then step, and then steps. Eventually you should be able to go like this from like 15 feet away, and he comes over to you, and we'll do one more. Target. Okay, so make sure that the guardian, that you're eating something in front of him and dumping the food, but make sure you put that empty bowl back down. I'm trying to think what else we went over. The dog bed. Make sure, Mexico. So this shouldn't take too long. So just throw 10 treats in a row, one at a time, and every time that he goes over there and licks it up, you say the word Mexico. The next stage is when he goes over there on his own, then you throw the treat. So maybe you might want to get one of these little treat pouches. You don't have them forever. This is a short-term deal, but just maybe, and the kids can do this as well. So just have them throw the treat on the dog bed, and when he goes over and licks it up, call it Mexico. Remember, always when the treat goes first. I promise there is one. That's why I make sure the one you get on, the one I like to get on Groupon is the Sealer Posturepedic or the Memory Foam. They're not either one of those. It's just the brand names they licensing. But the idea for that is that.
I don't know.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up in a second. So basically, if you have any questions on any of these things, please let me know. Don't pat him on his bark because that will reinforce that. So if you have any questions, make sure you text me. Rupert! This is Rupert, and this is Rupert's Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.